You can't just stop me at the border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation.
All right, folks, so this is the kind of story that the mainstream media is not going to show you. And this is all happening on social media. So I think it's really important to stay informed when it comes to what Trump's Gestapo is up to. One of the country's biggest left-wing content creators was just detained and questioned by Customs and Border Patrol at the O'Hare Airport in Chicago, seemingly over his political content. But he isn't the only one. More and more people are coming out of the woodwork to tell their stories about how strange it is that CPB is asking questions that are very different from the standard "are you traveling for business or pleasure" type questions.
But I have heard of cases where somebody has been asked a very similar question. Do you like our current administration? Do you like our president? And even people who have been not even negative, but have been less than enthusiastic, have been refused entry. And in one case that I heard was actually banned for entry for 5 years.
And she was talking about tourists, foreigners, visitors to the United States, which doesn't bode well for the Olympics, which we're supposed to host. And of course, they started with the tourists and the foreigners. We covered that weeks ago with the Canadian tourists and the PhD students getting turned away or detained for weeks for the crime of not sucking Trump's toes. But they are ramping up their effort.
I said, okay, I'm exiting the vehicle. Keep your gun at your waist. They handcuffed me. They twisted my arm.
It was like a shock for me.
A real estate attorney, Atala says he's been an American citizen for over 10 years. He immediately started questioning why he was being detained.
Even if you ask questions, they say we don't know, it's the government. I really thought things would change after this administration when we had Mr. Trump in office. Things would change to the better. Things actually changed to the worse.
Yeah, that's right. That idiot was actually a MAGA supporter. I don't know why, he's an immigrant, but he thought that for some reason Trump was going to be better. I mean, things have gotten to the point where U.S. citizens are being detained and asked to let Border Patrol agents search their phones and social media accounts while asking questions about their political leanings. Here's a young woman who was born and raised in the United States and was detained when coming back through Miami because of this. She runs an online store where she sells anti-Trump merch. Well, apparently that's enough to get flagged by Customs and Border Patrol these days.
So I posted a video a couple days ago talking about how I got detained as a United States citizen born and raised. And I'm just going to go over everything, give you guys the entire story and all the details. Which this is the first room I was taken to. So that is the original first room. There was people of all skin colors. I know a lot of people think I was the only minority. And that's where I was asked my father's citizenship status. My father is an American citizen. He has been for the last 25 years before I was born. I did not have the answers to any of those questions because I would not know. From that point, after taking my phone, my passport, all my bags, they had asked me when, where, and why if I had any trips planned, and when, where, and why, and for how long. I had no clue. I still don't have a clue. I do not plan to leave the U.S. yet. So I answered no, and he proceeded to literally scream in my face 4 times, and I told him no every single time. After about 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and during this entire thing, I was finally let go after telling them no, that I had no plans to leave the United States. I also want to let you guys know that I am very political on my accounts. I literally have a clothing brand called Trump for the Dump, making meme shirts of Trump, and then it's a nonprofit, so we donate to organizations that he's defunding. I also want to say that I post on my Instagram stories and my TikTok a lot of things anti-Trump and anti-MAGA, whatever you want to call it. So that is a red flag for them.
Clearly, they targeted this woman and started asking her all of these questions about her social media and the kinds of content that she posts because they're trying to intimidate anyone who's anti-Trump. And that goes doubly for the most anti-Trump content creators there are, including Hasan Piker, the internet's favorite and only major left-wing political streamer.
For those of you who don't know, I was detained by Customs and Border Patrol inside of the O'Hare Airport. I get to the global entry line and they're processing everybody expeditiously. Gets to me, take a photo, boom, walk in. Instantly, the Customs and Border Patrol agent goes, "Step aside, sir. An agent will come and take you to another location." I was like, is that proper protocol? It's like, sometimes it happens. There's a detention area. I'm sitting there. There's like a bunch of terrified families. There's an old lady in a wheelchair. Finally, this agent comes out. They take me to this back room and we got to talking. And let me tell you folks, the TikTokers that talked about being detained, they were right. It was an insane situation. So it's very obvious that they knew exactly who the I was. It's very obvious that they knew how to like navigate the conversation. You know, he's like, oh, what are you doing in Chicago? And I was very revealing. I was like, I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France, but I had to come back early from France because I have a speaking engagement at University of Chicago. And he was like, oh, what kind of speaking engagement? It's like, I don't know, some like journalism school stuff. And he's like, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that, what kind of things do you stream about? So I was just like, I play video games, but I also do current events sometimes. And he's like, since you mentioned that, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. So when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like, what the f is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, what does this have to do with anything? None of these questions are actually valid questions to ask. But I was entertaining it because, one, I didn't want to present it as being difficult because I didn't want to extend the detention. And two, I actually wanted to see how far I could take it. And I'm glad I did this because the reality of the matter is I'm profoundly privileged. I'm a public person. I have enough money to be able to fight back against this sort of thing. And they know who the I am. So obviously, the reason for why they're doing that is, I think, to try to create an environment of fear, to try to get people like myself, or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security, to shut the up. And I'm going to use the privilege that I have in that moment to try and see what the they're doing. Every single thing that they ask me is literally not allowed. Like, what the do you mean? Why is this denying me entry into the country of my birth? You can't just stop me at the border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation.
Now, according to this reporting by NBC News, Hasan's detention was brought up to the Department of Homeland Security, who denied any claims of political persecution. When asked for comment about Piker, a Department of Homeland Security official called his account nothing but lying for likes. Claims that his political beliefs triggered the inspection are baseless, Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement. Our officers are following the law, not agendas. Upon entering the country, this individual was referred for further inspection, a routine, lawful process that occurs daily and can apply for any traveler. Once his inspection was complete, he was promptly released. Folks, it's more important than ever to know your rights, especially when it comes to entry into the United States. Whether you're a citizen, green card holder, permanent resident, here on visa, whatever your status, the Customs and Border Patrol under the Trump regime is not hiding the fact that they're coming after progressives and liberals and anybody who is anti-Trump. If you ask me, this questioning is just an information gathering campaign. It's a precursor for when it's time for Trump to refuse to leave office, and naturally, they're going to be widespread left-wing protests. Well, then they'll have spent the last 4 years creating an anti-Trump database where they know who to go for first and where to go to find them. Once again, this is the kind of coverage that you're not going to see on the mainstream media. So if you want to join our resistance here at Really American and stay informed on Trump all the way through to the bitter end, be sure to subscribe to Really American and drop some blue hearts in the comments. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.